So before I start talking about this, I just want to preface this by saying I'm not a scientist. I have no training in physics or any real training in mathematics other than what you would go, like, I did calculus, was the furthest I went in math, and then I did some statistics in college. So I'm going to preface this with that. Now, I have heard some really compelling theories about certain things. And while I'm not particularly well versed in all of these subject materials, I can understand an argument, and I can understand logic, and I can understand reason, and I can generally get if someone's argument is bullshit. Like, oh my god, I was watching this video the other day, and it was, you know, one of those kind of ancient astronaut theory type video things, and the guy's argument had holes upon holes and logical fallacies and leaps and all the crap, and my response was, well, this is my favorite type of garbage, because when I get home from work, I like to sit down, I like to put on something mind-numbing that doesn't have anything to do with Islam, because quite frankly, it is mind-numbing to come home, turn on the TV, or look up, you know, YouTube at my favorite, you know, commentators or whatever, and have another massacre of little girls, or, you know, something deadly. Like, I don't want to watch that right before I'm trying to go to bed. So I put on garbage, because it's interesting. A lot of this, like, ancient astronaut stuff deals with, like, archaeology too, which, oh, it's fascinating. And people have all of these ideas about whether we evolved or if we were genetically engineered and stuff. Anyway, this video, though, I don't remember exactly what it was about, but the guy was like, yeah, we were genetically engineered. So I had this discussion with somebody about, like, there are flaws to we developed in the savannah, and we learned to walk upright so we can see over the tall grass. There's just certain things that don't align with that, right? But it doesn't mean that we were genetically engineered. Now, there is an alternative theory out there. I don't think there's a shit ton of support out there for this theory yet, but I think there's a good argument to be looked at there, at least. See, because the way that DNA works, and I learned this in my university, you can actually change the structure of your DNA through your habits. And what happens is there's a certain, I can't remember the name of it, but there's a certain molecule that like locks your DNA into place in certain areas. And if you unlock that DNA or something, take out that molecule, you can unlock certain parts of your DNA. And so it's, I feel like you adapt. That's why we adapt. It's because our DNA actually does change generation to generation. It really does. And you can pass along your good habits to your children. I don't know if you knew this or not, but genetically you can pass on your good habits. If you're the type of person who likes to eat salads and shit, odds are your kid's gonna like to eat salads. Because your habits do change your biology. It's just part of it, you know? And that's why I think you see, you know, fat families and skinny families and stuff like that. It's all about habits and stuff too. So it's a balance of both. I think our habits impact our genetics. And so the theory of The theory of us evolving on the savannah, I've heard an argument for the idea that we evolved either along the coastline or in the water, where we either spent a majority of our time in the water or we lived in the water. And I think there is a compelling argument for this. You know, I personally think we look more like monkeys, but you know, if they want to say we're apes or whatever, I don't care. Either a monkey or an ape-type creature we started off as, right? And we eventually evolved to walk upright. And our feet, I don't know if you know, this is kind of weird, but our feet is actually not the most adapted to walk on the land. It's not. I actually think our feet is adapted more for swimming. Like, humans know how to swim fairly well. When babies are born, they know how to hold their breath underwater. Why is this important? Well, why would you need your baby to be able to have breath control underwater right after it's born? And if you keep that baby and you repeatedly submerge them in water, you know, as they get older, they keep that instinct intact, right? It's something that their body holds on to, you know. You develop those neural pathways, but they're already there when the baby's born. So you have to take a real young baby to do this. But why would that be necessary? Why does a baby know how to hold its breath when it's first born, but then loses the ability? How does that make any sense at all? Why would a baby have to hold its breath right after it's born? And then you go, well, why does a giraffe have to stand up right after it's born? Why does a horse have to stand up right after it's born? Well, I think the answer is pretty clear. You know, baby has to be able to hold its breath right after it's born, because maybe we were in a situation where a lot of us did spend the vast majority of the time in water, and you know, we might have given birth in water, and maybe that's why. Or because we spent the vast majority of our time in the water, we needed our babies to immediately know how to swim, because that's where we lived. You know, and there's good indications for this. For instance, our skin is smooth. We don't really have fur. I mean, men have, you know, some arm hair and stuff, but could you really equate that to hair, to fur? Or the beards, what do the beards do? I mean, other than, you know, tell us that we're sexually dimorphic. But there's even a suggestion as to why we have hair as opposed to fur. And it would be in the water. You don't want fur, because it's not aerodynamic, it's not, you know, dynamic, unless you have like something really oily, like, you know, like sea otters or something like that. They have really oily fur that they keep really clean, but obviously apes don't have that. And so if an ape was starting to spend a lot of time in the water and starting to evolve in the water, they would start losing their hair as they adapted to their environment. Because the hair is unnecessary, and it's something that would happen generation after generation, because those I don't remember what I think maybe histomeres? Is that right? I'm not, metroneres? I don't know. I don't remember what they're called, but they change. They change with your environment. Like, in my opinion, this is why when you go out to the countryside, you have boys who are huge. They're big boys for the most part, you know? And then in the city, you get in towards the city, you have men of smaller stature. And the boys in the countryside, they tend to have more testosterone. They're bigger. They've got bigger muscles. They work at the land and stuff like that, and so on and so forth. If a kid's growing up in the countryside and they're doing labor from the time they're a small child, you don't think that's going to change their DNA and how it's presented and maybe triggering more testosterone? Meanwhile, if you're in a city, and cities actually do this, they feminize men, and they feminize men because there's so many people around that there's a lot of pheromones from lots of different people, and this is why in big cities the birth rate is a lot lower. It's because the men who are born here are feminized because they're surrounded in an area with a lot of people that impact the pheromones from other people. And I know people think that pheromones are very minor, but we don't actually know what pheromones do. We have no idea. But the idea is that the pheromones do have an impact on us. You can see it. Look at like Japan. Japan, in all their big cities, they have so tiny birth rates. They're losing their population. They're going down in population, And if you go to the countryside, though, here or anywhere else, you're going to find a lot higher of a birth rate out there. You just are. It happens. And I do think it's biological. I think we change based on our environment. And I think evolution happens a lot faster than they say it does. Until something, sticks. If something works, then we stick with it, right? Like, my hands work perfectly in my environment because we have shaped our environment around us. This is why I think we're only going to evolve if we biologically engineer, which I'm not sure is a good idea because we don't know what the fuck we're doing. And then second of all, the way I think we would evolve again, and I do think we're getting more intelligent. I think with the advent of the internet, I think we're going to start seeing more people with higher and higher IQs. I really do think that because there's so much access to information and stuff. And I think there might be more, okay, for instance, my niece was born really big. She has, and my sister was told she had a weird shaped head. I think her head was bigger than the average. She was 8 pounds 8 ounces. She's a big baby, and she's already sitting up. She was born in March, and she's sitting up. Like, you can set her in her little chair thing, and I mean, she can't like sit up on her own. But when you sit her there, she's 3 months old, she holds her head up, and she sits there, and she smiles, and she coos, and she moves her arms, and she looks at you, and she loves it. She loves it. She's such an active baby, and I almost wonder if it's because both her mom and her dad are really into like electronics, and it stimulates the brain, and so we're using our brains more because there's more stimuli out there in the world to take in and more things to learn. Like, I was just learning about fractals, man. Like, it blows my mind. And I sound like a fucking hippie from like the 60s right now. But like, there's so many things that astound me out there. My point is that maybe she evolved. The response to her having a bigger head and being more advanced when she came out, as opposed to, and she's a big girl too. She is wearing 6-month clothing and she's 3 months. And so, you know, like maybe that's just a response. Like, oh, we're in a time of plenty. Like my sister, and God bless her, but she didn't exactly, like, she couldn't really keep the weight off, and you know, we live in a very wealthy society, you know, where we have access. Oop, I twisted it the wrong way, I guess. We have access to really good nutrition, and so our babies come out really, really healthy, you know, especially when the mothers had a lot of proper medical assistance and help and stuff. And my sister would go to the doctor religiously, you know, she's such an anxious person, and she's a lot better than she used to be, but she does things like that, you know, very consistently. And I just wonder, did something get triggered in our DNA through the use of our technology? I think we evolve as our technology evolved. I think we evolve as our environment changes. If there was a set of humans who started spending a shit ton of time in the water, I would think eventually they would start, you know, if they were forced to live in the water or something, you know, or near it or whatever, they would evolve. They would. I think this is why probably some men are more smooth hair than others. Maybe their ancestors spent more time in water than others, or whatever. You know, I don't really know. Anyway, I did start this video not even to talk about the aquatic ape theory, but I was actually going to talk about fractals. But I think this has become an aquatic ape theory video. There's other things too, like for instance, supposedly, I can't see it on my hands, but we have webbing between our fingers, which apparently, I guess maybe this part is webbing. Yeah, but we have webbing between our fingers, and so that's indicative of someone who, or a creature that is primarily aquatic. We are able to regulate our breaths, which is also an indication that we are aquatic, because a lot of creatures can't consciously control their breath. This might also be a reason why we developed such large brains. If we lived in the ocean, and we're not, you know, completely carnivorous or anything like that, but we did eat a lot of fish. You know, if we were living in the ocean, we'd be eating, you know, shellfish and whatever we could get our hands on. And my thought is, the more fish that we ate, the more, you know, like omega-3s and stuff that we had available for our bodies to make our brains grow. And then on top of that, I think our consciousness emerged from being able to regulate our breath. We had to become conscious of our breath. So, you know, you can't become conscious of, well, okay, I'm going to go under the water, so I have to hold my breath. I think that's a lot more complex than we give it credit for. You know, that's something we don't even think about. But how many animals can actually hold their breath underwater? I don't know. I think it takes a sense of self to do that. Let's see. Anyway, I'm not saying that it was all in the water or anything, and I definitely do not think that we were like mer people or something like that. I think wherever we evolved, when we were first evolving, our little group got trapped in an area that became inundated with rising seawater or whatever. And so where they lived, either in the trees or whatever, maybe they were in trees, and when the water came in, things flooded or something. I'm just speculating here, especially if they're monkeys or something, or even chimpanzees will climb trees and stuff like that. So if there were trees and then suddenly ocean water started coming in, you could see how it could have, you know, switch. You know, your tree that you live in is suddenly getting covered by ocean water, so it's killing the tree, one thing, but now you have to find a new food source. Oh, well, there's tons of fish in the ocean. Why don't you go down there and catch a fish? Well, first it might be you go out and catch you figure out how to bang a rock on a clam, and you get that open and you start eating the meat. Okay, well, I think that has like omegas and stuff in it, and then, right, so then your brain gets a little bit smarter because you start eating these omegas with the shells, and so you can start like, you're like, oh, well, the rock worked really well for the clams, maybe I could throw it at a fish. The rock doesn't work so well. Well, maybe I throw a stick at I don't know, something like that. You just get, like, a creative idea, right? And, you know, it continues. And even, you know, apes and modern chimpanzees, they can use tools. Chimpanzees will use sticks to poke into termite mounds and eat termites, get the termites and eat them. I think gorillas do that too. Like I said, I think they'll use rocks and stuff, and so they know how to use, they figured out how to use tools, and they can actively teach their young how to use tools. And you can actively teach, you know, gorillas sign language, like, you know, Coco the gorilla and stuff like that. They're interesting creatures, you know. Not quite as intelligent as humans, of course, but they're not, I don't think their intelligence is insignificant, you know? And personally, I think, you know, the structure of our feet, I was looking at the structure of our feet, and I was hearing somebody discuss other, like, sorts of footprints that have been found, and, you know, like, other animals, they have different walking patterns. We don't actually have a good walking pattern for walking on flat land. What I think our feet evolved to walk on was probably like sandy beach type land. And I think we evolved to stand upright because as the water came in, as the sea levels rose, we started having to wade out into the water to go fishing or you know, to go get food. You know, and as more and more of the territory moved, got destroyed or whatever because of the incoming sea, you can see, you know, you're spending more and more time on your feet trying to get your head above the water. Okay, well, soon you can't touch the ground anymore, so you have to know how to swim. And you know, the first apes, you know, whatever, maybe doggy paddle was the first thing. But if enough of them have to know how to swim, the muscles in their bodies start to change, right? Because they're adapting, the muscles adapt. And the neurons are trying to learn a different motion because you have to know how to swim. And so there's a reason why I think, you know, think about how we swim. Like, what other creature swims like this? Like, no, like, seriously. Like, I understand, apes, you know, can swing or whatever, but can they do the full rotation? I don't know. I don't know if this is, you know, just humans, but it's lots of stuff about our physiology that makes me think that we are at least partially. And then I think the water receded some, especially, you know, towards the beginning of the last ice age, and we started moving inland. Or the beginning of, yeah, towards the beginning of the last ice age, and I think we did start evolving, you know, and we had to move inland because the water got colder too. You have to understand that if the waters of the ocean were significantly higher, it would mean that the world was significantly warmer, because that would mean, of course, the ice caps would have been melted. So the ocean water would have had to have been warmer. Also, we believe that they evolved at the equator, so the water might be warm enough down there already. And if not, it would have to occur during a warm period. This is what I think anyway. Because our body temperature has to be regulated. That's why we have, you know, body fat. A lot of chimps, like the gorillas and the apes, they're not born with what is called, I think it's called brown fat or something, but it's a baby fat. You're born with X amount of baby fat or whatever. And as you get older, you have less and less of it. And then you gain adipose tissue. And people compare that to blubber, which makes a bit of sense. Maybe that's why we have such a problem with obesity in our in our society. And I think it's probably a reason why people spend so much time eating in the wintertime, you know? It's like, we're cold, we want to eat. I think it's a response to the cold is wanting to eat. And I would not be surprised, well, I don't know, maybe. Unless you balance it out with something else. I don't know. But yeah, that's why I think, you know, babies are born and they look chunky. Babies are born chubby. They're cute, you know, they're chubby. But, you know, other animals. Where am I going with this? I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry. Anyway, I'm losing it. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings about the aquatic ape theory. I really wanted to talk about fractals because, my god, it's so fucking cool. But here's the thing. I can only talk for so long, and I need a break. So go look up fractals. It's really, really interesting, and it's not like a crazy out there like conspiracy theory thing like you might think the aquatic ape thing is, but I don't think the aquatic ape thing is a conspiracy theory type thing. I think it's a legitimate alternative theory, and you gotta understand it's a theory. It's an idea. It's a concept. You can refute it, you can discuss it, you can try to find evidence for it and all this stuff. But fractal geometry is a real fucking thing, and it is what gives cell phones the ability to do everything that they do, essentially. You know, like, it's absolutely amazing. So, my suggestion, look up fractal geometry, look up fractals. It's so fascinating. It's so interesting to me, and it's, I think, understanding fractals and especially electromagnetic and its correlation to space and time and gravity and all these things, which I want to really talk about, but you're gonna. Anyway, but fractal geometry is a real thing. It's a solid, real thing that affects us and helps make everything in the universe work. And it's in so many different places. It's in the trees. It's in our bodies. It's fucking everywhere. Just look up fractals, please.